like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for silent reflection and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia. Mr. Diver.
Here.
Mrs. King.
Here.
Mr. Schuler.
Here.
Mr. Tinkin.
Here.
Mr. Gorbach.
Here.
Mayor Mechanical.
Here. Please read the Open Public Meeting Act.
Pursuant to the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice sent to the Co-Star and Asbury Park Press, posted on the bulletin board here in the municipal building and on the borough website.
Thank you. Need a motion to approve the agenda and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do you have any questions on the agenda? Roll call. Roll call, Jay.
Mr. Diver.
Yes.
Mrs. King.
Yes.
Mr. Schuler.
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin.
Yes.
Mr. Gorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. No presentations at this time. No scheduled public hearings. This point in the meeting is the first voice of the public where you may speak on any agenda item. Just step forward and give your name and address.
Sharon Decker, Beverly Avenue. Mayor, I'm just a little confused because I see the Route 71 rezoning on the agenda.
As a discussion item, yes.
Right, but it's just a discussion because I thought the next hearing on it was going to be next.
This is.
No, on August 19th.
Right.
Okay, so this, I mean,
This is a discussion item, yes.
just a discussion. Okay, because I see a revision and we don't have any copies of it either, so just, that's what I'm questioning, that's all. Thank you.
No, thank you. Anyone else? John?
What?
John Lewis, 574 Prospect Avenue. I notice here under 11, there's a authorizing the execution of a settlement agreement and general release with Teresa Casagrande. And what specifically in the newspaper some months ago, she said she resigned and when she took the new job up there. And why are we in need of any execution agreement? What is the particulars of this agreement?
Yes. Fred?
Well, there was a summons and complaint that was filed by Ms. Casagrande relating to her employment with the borough. She alleged various things in her complaint. Her first count was for a breach of contract. Her second count was for breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Her third count was under the New Jersey Wage and Hour Law, and the fourth count was under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Essentially, what she had sought was payment for compensatory and overtime amounts to which she felt she was entitled to, and without any admission of any liability on the part of the borough has negotiated a proposed amicable agreement with her, and that is what's on the agenda for consideration.
Amicable to who? Amicable to her, I'm sure.
Not exactly.
Okay, the last time that we were here, there was a $19,000 payment you were giving to the tax lady there. And I had just come from a school board meeting where the school board added $650,000 in line items just to their reserve accounts. So the $19,000 seemed like chump change. But all of the people that work here think that they can just cash in with the threat of a lawsuit. And I happen to be looking at some old files that I have here. And during the argument back and forth about whether to freeze wages, the law, as it was read and as I read it, it says that the four people that think they deserve raises the tax assessor and the city clerk and all of that?
The protected class employees.
A protected class, but it says that if an increase is not given to all other municipal employees, they would not be entitled to anything. You have to give a raise to everybody and then try to take them out and not give them a raise. So the law is again, clear to me, but it seems to be unclear every time somebody wants a payment. And I'm against giving Ms. Casagrande anything. I read in the paper, she's the one that told her new job she resigned to take a better job. No one, she was not authorized to give herself overtime. And that's the clear fact of it. When she tried to collect it at city clerk, they told her the law was city clerks don't get overtime. Then she wanted overtime as the assistant this and the assistant that. And it seems, to my memory, her computer, miraculously, everything was wiped off her computer except one email to Gary that said she was working overtime one night. And whatever you give her is going to be too much, but as it goes on every week, you're paying somebody off. So I just wanted to register my complaint. Thank you.
And if I could just indicate for the record that this litigation was handled by the borough's labor counsel, Tracy Armstrong, in connection with the borough's JIF, and that the settlement was arrived at after reviewing all of the background materials and documents that were part of this case.
And I often know it's cheaper to pay the complainant rather than fight it in court. But at some point, some council that gets elected is going to have to put their feet down and start fighting these cases. I mean, that lady lost her job. It's that simple. She was not reappointed. She shouldn't get a bonus after she wound up taking another job. Thank you.
John, take this as a grain of salt. I don't believe we're going to have any more of these in the future.
Okay. I'll hold you to that, but it won't make a mess. It's not like I haven't had a politician tell me a falsehood before. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else like to speak? Well, seeing no hands, I need a motion to close the first voice of the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. On the discussion item, we have the U.S. Department of Agricultural Service Grant for Ocean Road Park and Poly Pod.
Yes, Mayor, actually, this was listed on the agenda. As you will recall, at a previous meeting, I provided notice that we had received a grant from the U.S. Department of Agricultural Natural Resources Conservation Service. This was a post-Sandy application that had been submitted by Joe May, the borough's engineer, to remove what is broadly defined as debris and down trees from both areas. The Wreck Pond Brook adjacent to Ocean Road Park at the south end of town, and the Polypod Brook at the north end of town. As previously reported, the funding that was made available to us provided for a local non-federal match in the amount of, I believe, $55,000. The reason for listing it for further discussion was to determine if the council wished to proceed with this and provide a non-federal match. Since that time, Joe May reported to me today that as a result of the previously I guess announced change in federal funding, FEMA funding for these projects, instead of being a $55,000 local match, our share of the match would be reduced to $23,650. And I was prepared to report that we were seeking alternative matches for the funding with the hope of getting it down to some $20,000–$25,000. It looks like with the change in the funding apportionment that's available through the feds, we are prepared to proceed with this without seeking an additional partner to provide the funding. And again, it is our intention that we have funding available under a 2011 bond ordinance that provided for drainage and road improvements. This is obviously a drainage improvement, and we would be seeking the authorization to proceed with this, utilizing that funding to provide the non-federal match.
And you need that authorization tonight?
We will be required, now that we are awaiting the receipt of the revised formal notification of the funding amount. With that, we'll receive a revised contract. So I anticipate at our next meeting, we'll be taking formal action to authorize that contract at that time.
Okay.
So this one became fairly easy since Friday afternoon.
Very good. Thank you, Jay. Next discussion, is the Route 71 rezoning. There have been some changes from the last meeting. We got some recommendations from the public and other council members.
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Good.
Recognizing that this was a recommendation that had been, and everyone knows the history, was a rezoning that had been initiated at the request of a property owner. The borough's engineer and planner had performed an evaluation of this specific area. Upon receipt, that was referred to the planning board. The planning board made recommendation to the borough council in terms of development of an ordinance that included establishing a new 3B zone. After our last meeting, and recognizing the fact that the ordinance as introduced was tabled until our August 19th meeting, I understood that, and heard some compromises being reached, potentially being reached among the council, and what I perceive to be consensus on a couple of issues, specifically the elimination of 2 of the parcels from the B3 zone, as well as some changes, potential changes in the buffers. I therefore prepared, in hope to perhaps initiate some further discussion by the council, a revision to the ordinance that reflects those changes. Additionally, there was some comments that were received regarding stormwater facilities and the use of rain gardens, or a requirement for rain gardens. And in fairness, there was also a suggestion that the ordinance be revised to include a requirement for LEED certification for energy efficiency. The energy efficiency part of it became a little bit more involved because of the potential impact of impinging on the state building code. But in any event, the rain garden concept was easily incorporated into the revised ordinance, and that's the purpose of this ordinance that's been presented to the council. If you wish to move forward with it, if it provides the basis for some further discussion. I don't know if it satisfies all of the concerns that were raised, but I believe that it reflects the discussion and the public comments that were received at the last meeting.
Well, I think it covers some concerns of the residents and a few council members, but as you said, I don't believe it covers everyone's concerns. But we can talk about that. Rich?
I think the basic concern that, that came out, and one of the biggest concerns, concerned the buffers and the setbacks. This would be, instead of 20 feet in the rear as a buffer, it would be 30 feet, which would be 10 additional feet for protection of, say, Wickham Manor and Hampton Court. 20 feet was suggested by a resident as the setback in the front because it would mirror their same side of the street, which, 5 more feet, that's a doable option. And it's 20 feet from the property line, not the curb line. So I want to be very clear in clarifying that. The additional thing, in terms of there have been environmental issues raised, and we're trying to address those, and rain gardens are one way of addressing them. Rain gardens are an excellent use of recharging water as it comes off of properties. What we'd like to see is something where there have been a few developments in town where you literally can get, and I'm talking about normal rain, 100% recharge by having everything recharged into the ground. Rain gardens are a very, very important aspect. The other issues that I think came about, I just want to make sure I've covered. I think that was it. It was the setbacks, the rain gardens, St. Stephen's Green, those 2 lots 9 and 10 are removed because they don't have a residential component. So really, you might as well just leave them where they are. But it allows us, again, to me, the issue has always been one of controlling what can happen there. If it is left in its current state, we don't have control. And we can do something, and again, I'm speaking for myself, we can actually do something that preserves a great deal for the most amount of people in many respects. My biggest concern has always been the trees in the back there. There is literally a forest sitting back there that right now, today, tomorrow morning, if the owner wanted to wake up and walk in his backyard and chop down every single tree he could, and there's nothing we could do to stop it. Absolutely nothing. It's his property. But if we can offer these property owners something different, a different way of doing things, and they can agree with that, and we can agree with that, and the residents can agree with that, then certainly we can preserve a much better area than what we would otherwise have. It's really, the issue is control about what gets developed and how it gets developed. We can do that if we change this. If we don't change it, we won't have that control. And that would be a shame. And there's honest, if I could just say one other thing, there is honest disagreement among people. But it doesn't have to be, shall we say, overly contentious. Everyone's allowed their opinion. None of us is going to get 100% of what they want. But if we all could sign us all up today, because we'd all be happy to take it. But you know, the truth is we're not going to get 100% of what we want. But we should try and strive as best we can for that middle ground as best we can. There are many people who believe, you know, it should be this or it should be that. That's all well and good. I think at a certain point, and I encourage all my fellow council members, at a certain point, I think we have to move forward and make decisions before decisions get made for us that we'll regret.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything you'd like to say? Yes, good, sir.
I would just like to add to what Mr. Diver has said in the sense that since the last council meeting where this was very heavily discussed, I know other council members and myself, we have been talking to people that are in the immediate affected area. And the idea of this B3 is not really that far off base with many of the residents that live in that very small corridor. What is it?
It's less than 0.2 miles.
Right. A very short, strip. Everyone is concerned, of course, over the fact that the highway, I don't care where you are in Spring Lake Heights, is a very busy highway, depending on the time of the day, depending on the season. Summers are very, very busy in comparison to the winter. But all in all, I don't really think that there is that much disagreement on what people would really like. I've had one person tell me, oh, retail stores would be nice in there. I'd like to have maybe a small little novelty shop, or maybe somebody that deals in antiques, or a small little cafe, or a little luncheonette. So I don't really think that we are that far off base. It's just that we're trying to put together ideas that were brought forward at that last council meeting and go forward with those ideas and see if we can hopefully meet some of those demands that, were brought forth. Let's face it, nobody wants anything right on top of them, and that's why the increase in the buffer and the setback has been made 5 more feet. And to put something in there that is maybe quaint and, nice, I don't really think that anybody that even lives across the street is gonna, dislike it. So, I really hope that we can work together on this and we can come to a resolve, that everyone is at least gonna be able to live with, and, it's not gonna be a big town center type of a deal. I still view the shopping center at the far north end of town as more of a center focal point than I would something like this. And I don't really foresee anything major coming in here. But on the other hand, like Mr. Diver said, what you have to remember is that if we don't go with this B3, you could end up with a motel, you could end up with a gas station, you could end up with very large businesses that is so far to the opposite of what this B3 plans, that then I don't think anybody would be happy.
Anyone else would like to say anything about
Mayor, I'll put some thoughts forward.
Go ahead.
I think as I've listened to the residents that have come out to the meetings on this issue, the other concern, along with buffers, is definitely a major concern, is the concern of traffic and traffic related to retail businesses. For retail to be successful, there has to be traffic in and out of the retail. So we already know that 71 there's traffic problems in there already. Traffic is also going to cause potential noise issues to the residents in that area. So I think retail is an issue. I think it's an issue in a B3 zone. Whereas if we were to think about a B1, where it's more professional offices, where the traffic is limited to, the 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock, but you don't have the constant in and out, I think we might be able to potentially find some common ground in a B1 zone. And the B1 setbacks are also large. I'm also in favor of purchasing a 30-foot green space in the back to create a buffer for the residents that want a buffer. So if we purchase 30 feet, or we negotiate with the developers to provide a portion of that green space with us, plus the buffer of a B1 zone, then you're talking potentially 50 feet of buffers, which will protect all of those trees in the back, provide a nice green space, help with environmental runoff, so on and so forth, keep the traffic, as the least amount as you can in a commercial zone. So I think B1 could be a reality. Personally, I could also support some kind of residential in that area as well. I mean, residential would be my preference, but seeing that it's already a commercial zone, I think B1 might make some sense in terms of traffic, controlling the traffic and giving us some more control over that land and a smaller footprint, if you will, by business.
Tom?
Yeah, gee, you took the words out of my mouth. I understood at the last council meeting that maybe a lighter footprint seemed to be the compromise position. I like the idea of keeping the town's character residential. We are a residential town in our city. But if you had a B1 with the augmented setbacks, I think we could all compromise and live with that. If you have a lot of retail there, you're going to have incredible amounts of traffic. And I'm just listening to people who have come out and spoke about this. I'm thinking this is the wrong way to go.
We take yours and Chris' advice, we take it serious. As you was talking there about the retail, now I don't know if it's legal, I don't know if it's practical, I don't know if it's even possible, but if you're worrying about the number of retail stores that go in there, as a legal thing, would we put a quota on how much retail or office buildings could go in that area? Is that possible?
Good question.
Well, I believe in the current ordinance that you have, the B3, under conditional uses, it lists professional offices, but there is a percentage not to exceed 50% of the total gross floor area within the zone, and not to exceed 25% of the total first floor area of the zone. So there already is something to that effect for a conditional use.
Conditional use.
I'd have to review that a little bit more with the
Okay.
borough's planner, if the council were interested in looking at something like that.
I guess, and Rich and I talked about this. We had a real good conversation actually. The one concern that I raised with Rich is that a B3 doesn't already exist. And do we want to, and I'm putting this out to the council, do we want to create a zone that doesn't exist that could potentially have a larger footprint, where a B1 I believe already exists in the town, which would kind of just for me would make sense to continue the zone that exists in the town, and that's just an issue I want to put forward.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I just want to mention, I want to thank both Chris and Tom. We both had extensive conversation. And again, it's honest disagreement. The B3 was developed to have a lighter footprint, and it does show that. You do have the conditional use. You can't go over a certain percentage in terms of certain things. That's already in there. The concern on the B1 that was raised, because, again, it's residents, owners, council, whoever are concerned. When people bought those properties as B2, those properties have a certain value because they're B2. B3 keeps them with their value. A B1 could dramatically reduce their value. That could be an issue, and we do have to take that into consideration. We're not here to harm people as far as that goes. In terms of residences, my concern always has been that if, and this again, this is an honest disagreement. My concern about residences, what residences are marketable there, what would the price value be, what could that price value do to the surrounding residents in the surrounding area? You could drive down their home values. That's a very large concern to me. If I bought a house on Hampton Court or Pitney Drive or Parkview or in Wickham Manor, and all of a sudden there's a brand new property that's selling for less than my resale, I'm in trouble. That's a problem. And in terms of traffic with residences, as far as the business is concerned, I think we all know this, but as far as the businesses are concerned, most businesses are going to be maybe 7 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, depending upon if there's a pharmacy or there's a delicatessen or that sort of thing. And again, that's light commercial use. That's not heavy commercial use. But if you had just residences, well, there could be 60 homes in there. So we're starting out with 120 cars right off the bat, 24/7 a week. And I can just imagine what that would put onto that area of Route 71. And then 10 years from now, when the kids grow up and get their permits, now we've got 240 cars locked in this area. And again, everybody has valid points and valid concerns. But in terms of traffic flow and whatnot, that's a definite concern to me. Because there's only one way in and one way out. Most of us can go around a corner, can take a different route. There will be no other route but out to 71. And I think that's maybe not the best, use of that. So again, I ask my fellow council members to really look hard at this and to really look at how much thought has gone in. We've been discussing this for now, well, some of us a year and a half, but certainly here in earnest this entire year so far. And even part of last year it was discussed. I think we've made movement. I think we're trying to do something that would be correct for the most amount of people as best as possible. And I think we may have arrived at it. And at the same time, I think we also need to be concerned as a council that our constant inaction can cause us to really shoot ourselves in the foot, in the sense that we would then lose control over it if we just keep pushing this off, pushing this off, pushing this off. We will lose control over how that's developed. However these things come about, and, Sharon has walked around, she's gotten a petition or whatever, and I respect that. That's your right. You absolutely have a right to do that.
Thank you.
You absolutely do. And whether we agree or disagree, I know that both of us love our town and want the best for it, and we do. We may have a disagreement. I'm trying to find somewhere in the middle that we can all be happy. I personally think in this case, if everybody's unhappy, we probably found it. But the bottom line is, we have to, at a certain point, make the decision. And that's what I would encourage us to do, is make a decision. If we're going to do something, we should do it. If we're going to let it sit, which I think is a tremendous mistake, then you let it sit. Because I think everybody loses on that deal. The way it sits now, ask anyone, a split zone in that area does not work. It just doesn't work.
Anything else? Yes, Judge.
Just to go back in history here a little bit, for anyone who has lived in town for a very long time. Part of the reason that this is a B2 zone on that front part of all those properties is for many, many years, this area had businesses. Where Christine Keating's place was a gas station, and there were a couple of small stores. A little grocery store was in there that was originally owned by people who had settled here years and years ago. Businesses on the opposite side of the street. Mrs. Miller's Candies was there for years and years and years, and you want to talk about a traffic jam. That was a traffic jam because there was no place to park, and the police had to constantly direct traffic, but you know what? It did not make a difference. I mean, she did a wonderful business, and our police department did a wonderful job, and everything went fine. Congestion, yes, congestion can be a problem. But I think what the main issue here is that it's already commercial. We're basically talking about the back portions of this entire tract. And as we've said, it's landlocked, it's residential back there. I, for one, and I'm sure Butch, we live on Pitney. The people who live on Hampton Court, the people who live in Wickham Manor, we do not want to see anything that is going to draw down our value of our house and our residences. So basically what we're talking about is just creating something that's a little bit nicer, that is a little bit more restrictive than what presently is in the B2, or giving a little bit more than what's in the B1, and keeping it as a commercial corridor on that particular side of the road.
Which is the master plan.
Which is the master plan. And I don't understand, to be honest with you, there's nobody I was dead set against this from the beginning. You have no idea how long it's taken them to convince me that this is the way to go, because, and I'm not saying I'm 100%, but when I look at the alternatives, and I think that there could be a gas station back in that area, there could be a motel, or there could be other businesses that are not going to be conducive to that area at all. I would rather go with the B3, stick with what we've now done, and alter it, and take the suggestions that we've had given to us by the various people who were here at the last meeting, and who we've also talked to, and just go ahead. And I agree with Rich. I have no problems with petitions. I think I've done a few myself over the years. And I have no problem with that. And I think that's a good way of, voicing your opinion and getting a consensus, and people being able to say, I now feel like I'm making a decision, or I'm making a voice. Maybe it's through one person or two people, but it's an avenue. So I have no problem with that. But I really do feel that we have now gotten ourselves to a point, and especially now that we've streamlined this a little bit, that we really, really need to move forward. And Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to introduce this new ordinance that Jay has formulated and move forward.
I'll second that.
Do we have any questions?
I thought we told the public that we were gonna have another meeting in August.
We are.
We are.
This is just
The hearing would be the August 19th.
This is just an introduction, Chris. It'll be August 19th. And it's my, well, not my desire, but it's my hope that from now to August 19th, I'm sure there'll be other ideas brought forward to the council that will be brought forward at that public hearing. And as Sarah said, I lived in this town 50 years. When this B3 thing came up, I was totally against it myself. And I tried not to take sides. I didn't want to take sides, but you know what's going on. You have one side, you have the other side. I tried to not take sides with it, right? But as I look back, people are afraid of change. I was afraid of change. But I said, what's going to be good for the town? Leave it as it is? No. We leave it as it is, anything could happen. You could have commercial in the front, residents in the back, who knows? B1, okay, but how many professional buildings are we going to need in town? There's a lot of empty ones around, right? If we get a little mix of some retail, some professional offices, it may work. It will work. I think it will work. It's a light development. It's not overdevelopment. So I would want some of my council members to take that into consideration. I wouldn't do anything I think would harm our town. I've been here all my life. If I thought this was bad for the town, I would not vote for it. So before you make your vote, just think about it.
Mayor, if I could just add, by way of process, as you know, the ordinance that was tabled at the last council meeting is a separate ordinance with a different ordinance number, and that has been tabled till August 19th. If the council should vote to introduce this new ordinance, it would have a separate ordinance number tonight, and it could also be scheduled for a second reading and public hearing on that same night, August 19th. But we're talking about two different ordinances. The one that was placed on the table at the last meeting and a new one that council's considering introducing this evening in a modified format.
And Mayor, just for clarification purposes, as this ordinance has received a motion and second for introduction, I would assign this ordinance number 2013-06, just for reference purposes.
2013-?
06.
And since it does substantively differ from the ordinance that was referred to the council from the planning board, it does need to be referred to the planning board.
Yep. Correct.
Mayor, I just want to
Yes, go
bring it up.
ahead. Go ahead.
You know, is this something that we want to vote on with someone, a missing council member? I just want to bring it up. We can go ahead and do it. You know, there's a motion on the floor, but just as a courtesy to our absent council member, something as this important, do we want to do that? The answer is yes, then we'll vote on it.
I understand your point, Chris. Remember, this is just an introduction. I would hope Councilman Cindy would be here for our next meeting.
Okay.
I would hope so. Any other questions? Roll call, Jim.
On the motion to introduce ordinance 2013-06, Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
No.
Mr. Vorbach?
No.
Mayor, voted 3 in favor, 2 opposed.
Thank you.
And it passes on introduction.
Thank you. Thank our council members.
Thank you.
Do we have any reports? We usually go down to, okay, Chris.
All right, so for recreation, we're up to almost 190 children, which is about 30 kids more than last year. Okay, so it's been well received. A couple things that are going on. This week is acting camp week at recreation for grades 2 through 8. We're also planning, Mayor, when rec ends, we're still going to have some activities for the kids, okay? One of those is we're planning a stickball tournament on August 12th and 13th. You know, we have a stickball league in motion in the town. This will extend that. It's going to be $5 a kid, okay? So we keep the price nice and low for everybody. We're also looking, well, I believe on Thursday we have a concert. Maybe it's Friday, 7:25, I think, is concert in the park. Thursday. Another concert in the park. We have the Yankees. We have tickets for the Yankees. We've secured tickets for the Yankees. August 22nd, and we'll begin to advertise that, right, Jay?
That's correct.
Okay.
You want the way they're playing, Chris?
Well, interestingly enough, all right. Interestingly enough, the Mets gave us a harder time than the Yankees.
For City Field?
The Mets, yeah, they have what they call flexible pricing. So the price they quote you today might not be the price we give you tomorrow. So we said, all right, call it, we'll see next year.
Sounds like a squeeze play.
Yeah, so for this year, we got the Yankees. Next year, we actually would like to expand to the Phillies, Orioles, Yankees, Mets. Okay, so maybe something every month, a different team. We're looking to do a movie night, kind of like a end of the summer movie night. We're working on that right now. That would be hopefully inside the school cafeteria. Okay. There would be no charge for that, but we would accept donations. And then the Fall Festival is going to be scheduled for September 21st, a little bit earlier than usual. Now, the Fall Festival, we're looking as the rec department to get involved in that and become a partner with that so that we can make it more of a town-wide event. What we're looking to do is obviously partner with the school, the PTO, the Ed Foundation, and actually bring in a company to do a whole slew of activities for the kids. In the past, you know, the parents from each grade level have basically made up the activities, and we've done some little bouncy things for the kids. But we're looking to bring in a company to do that, to give really more of an experience for the whole town, okay? And also as part of that, to bring in some kind of food service, whether that be a food truck, whether that be some kind of other type of food service for the Fall Fest. And by the way, there will be a food truck at the concert this week, where we've begun instituting food trucks at the concert. So if you want to come to listen to music, you can also eat now. But this Fall Fest, September 21, and I think what I'd like to do is have the rec take an active role in that, and when I say become an active partner and help to finance some of the increases here. We're talking about a minuscule amount of money in terms of what we're going to get and the funds that we could receive back into the town. So literally for $1,400, we can partner on the side of providing all the activities for the kids, where the PTO and the Ed Foundation will put up the money for the food and the other things. So if we combine our financial forces, so to speak, we can have a much bigger town-wide festival and make it much more of an event. So that's what we're looking to do September 21st.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Pleasure work. And I was,
Thank you.
I was glad to hear about the stickball.
Yeah, we're bringing it back.
My two sons grew up on stickball. Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
I can go on stickball.
Jack, you-
One question, the Christmas show, is there any progress on that?
Oh yeah, we have everything booked. We've ordered the tickets, the bus, and what we decided was we're going to wait till September, right? After the summer, to then really advertise and take payments for that.
Okay.
We do have a water utility report that Jay's going to go over. I'm going to turn over to Jay.
Yeah.
He does talk about the money coming in. We had a discussion on the phone. Jay's going to put together some numbers on the cost involved too.
On the,
Well, yeah, because, and then to be fair, it's a little, there are some complications in doing that, so I think it's going to take a little time. But, because from this report, you see the money coming in, but you don't see the money, going out. So, I always, believe in following the pipes, the guy that goes into and that goes out of. And it's good to know what the cost of goods sold are, so that's all.
And Mayor, under the reports that are listed on the agenda, I'll elaborate on the water utility. That time.
Oh, okay, that's him, okay.
well, I'm sorry, Jay, I missed that.
The agenda, item 9, reports and notices, includes the quarterly utility report, and at that time, I'll elaborate on this.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Tom. Is this your spreadsheet, Tom?
No, it's Jason.
Oh, okay.
Good job, man. Thank you.
Anything else, Tom?
That's it.
Sarah?
In reference to the police report, I just want to make mention that we have two notes from residents in town or people that the police department has helped. One is to Detective Matunis and the entire Spring Lake Heights Police Department. Thank you so much for your assistance and continued support during our accident at 7-Eleven on June the 1st. Rob and I are extremely thankful to you all and all first aid responders who came to our aid. Bear with me because this is hard to read. You were all calming souls during such a drastic and stressed moment. We are proud that Spring Lake Heights has such an amazing team of officers who operate with such efficiency and sincerity at every moment. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you, Gina Apicella and Rob Lauderstadt, it looks like. Then there's another one from Annette Wishbo, and this is really difficult to read, but basically what she is saying is that she had experienced a fall and she needed assistance, and that Officer Schaefer was the one who very quickly responded and came to her rescue. And apparently she had the police department assist her in the past for her husband. And she has always been very, very relieved and very grateful when our police department has come to her aid. And she says thank you very much to the police department and to Officer Schaefer. And I always like to read these because, you know, our guys do such a good job, and I think it's very important that they know how they're appreciated and what the people think about them when they do respond to these various incidences. On the other hand, I just want to bring everyone up to date. This past Wednesday, myself, Jay Delaney, the chief of the fire department, Keith Borough, the assistant chief, Dan Hamilton, and the president of the fire department, Harvey Hogan, met to discuss the fire whistle. We had, this was brought up at one of our meetings. It was unanimous that we have to do something about the whistle. All the council was in concert with that. At the meeting, Jay made a very good presentation, which I'll let him talk about in a few minutes, but I was not so kind.
Really?
No. I kind of made it very clear that in today's day and age, there absolutely, positively should not be the quality of life issue with the whistles in town that we have. The one on Grieve Avenue sits right in the front yard of someone's property, and the one on the southern end of town sits right in the playground where the very young children play. And they even have put a sign up there saying, beware of the whistle. I told the chief that I am not budging and I am not giving in to those two whistles being removed completely. I don't want them in service. I don't want them operating in any way, shape, or form. Now, he wasn't happy, of course, but I told him that I did not think I was being unreasonable. I have been subjected personally to this whistle for all the 60-some years that it has been in operation because I lived under that whistle on Grieve Avenue. And now that neighborhood is starting to get populated with small children, just like the park over on the other side of town is being utilized by small children. Most of the kids that play in that park are under 5 years old on the average. The mothers go there with them during the day, and you know, they really have a good time. But when these whistles go off, and a couple of weeks ago, the one in the Ocean Road Park got stuck because I got an immediate call from Councilman Schuler asking me what was going on. When I checked into this at the meeting, they didn't really give us too much of a response. Now, just so you'll know what their arguments are, is that they feel that the whistle is something that gives them notification that there is a fire. It gives the residents notification that there's a fire. What if a fireman doesn't have their cell phone or their beeper or something with them, then they're going to miss the call. You know what? My theory on this is if you are a volunteer and this is what you want to do, and I don't want to sound like I'm being nasty here because I'm not. The point is that I know people that are volunteers, and some of them are volunteers in 4 different departments, and they wear 4 different pieces of apparatus on their belt. If you're going to volunteer for something, then you should be able to be reached and be contacted. The idea of using the whistle to alert that there's a fire in town so the firemen can respond. We don't have a lot of people that would be here during the day if the fire whistle went off. Many people don't work in town. Unlike over in Spring Lake, where a lot of their DPW workers are also firemen in Spring Lake. So obviously, they are, you know, available right away. Most of the other towns also do not blow their whistle unless it's for the 3rd response. Now, our guys have said, okay, they might consider that. But the things that they have tried so far, such as from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. not blowing the whistle, that doesn't always work. Because depending on who's on dispatch, if they're new or if they don't remember all the rules and regulations of everything with the town, they push that button. The other thing is that since this discussion started a couple of weeks ago, the fire chief made an edict where he said, okay, we're not gonna blow the whistle unless it's for a dwelling fire. Well, that hasn't worked either, because the whistle has gone off 3 times, and none of them have been for a dwelling fire. So my thing with the firemen was, look, I'm not saying do away with the whistle per se, because there is a whistle at the firehouse. There should be a whistle at the firehouse. All firehouses have a whistle, and we do need a whistle in case there is disaster, such as flooding, hurricane, whatever, you want to conclude as a disaster. So we do have to have an active whistle. But the square mile of the town and the situation that the town is in, I don't think we need to have 3 whistles. So I just want everyone to know that I am very, very steadfast in wanting to get rid of the 2 whistles that interfere with quality of life in neighborhoods. I mean, the one on the southern end of town is right in the backyard of a residence, as well as being in the park. It's just not acceptable to me. So that's where we're at, and then I'll turn this over to Jay now, because he can talk to you about, there's other options of different whistles that can be purchased, outdated whistles done away with, and so on.
Well, I think you've covered most of the bases. All I would say is that I would describe it as a candid meeting between the parties, and as you indicated, the chief did agree to implement some immediate changes to the standard operating procedures for the use of the siren, and had also agreed to review the existing locations as well as alternative technologies, and those discussions will continue.
I would like to add, she talked about the fire alarm that was blowing on a Saturday. I called the dispatch and asked him what was going on. He said, I don't know, all I do is push the button, and that alarm's going on. That's the response I had.
Sir, the location, brought up location, Jay. Do we have any isolated places in town where a whistle could be placed with
Water tower.
water tower?
Again, there have been
I was thinking of the
at this
10
stage.
T on the Spring Lake Golf Course.
Hit it up, baby.
I'm with you, sir. We have beepers, cell phones, push-to-talk cell phones, we have the Honeywell alert system. And the siren that was on the top part actually fell down some years ago. I'm not quite sure how many years back. Maybe it was 10 or 15 years ago. I might be wrong, but it was quite a while ago. It was out of service for like 9 months. And the people in that neighborhood around it signed a petition that was brought to the council and the fire department. Say, hey, move it to a business area like on 71.
To move it by the school.
Anything, just, and they put up a new siren that's exponentially louder. This is tsunami, nuclear attack, terrorist alarm all in one. It's really incredibly loud. So I'm skeptical that we actually need the sirens on your end of town.
Well, one of the things, and Jay brought it up if I'm not mistaken, the elevation, the height of the whistle. You brought that up.
Yeah, again, we're looking at alternative technologies in terms of types of sirens, locations, and certainly their height above the ground. There are some natural contours to the land in this area, higher than others, and certainly getting, a typical siren, I believe, the current ones are mounted approximately top of the telephone pole, so about 35 feet. Certainly raising it some distance above that has the ability to take it out of direct earshot. But again, we're reviewing various options in an attempt to find a happy balance, perhaps.
Also, a good number of the volunteers don't actually live in town, right?
Well,
So they may not be in earshot of these. Well, I
That
think
was,
you could be in Manhattan and still hear that.
That's what I heard outside my office. I heard it on
I broke the glass in your office.
that was brought up. We did discuss the the membership, and I am going to review that because they tell me that there's more than 8 to 10 people that do live in town and that are active, but I think a lot of them are inactive. I think some of them
they're
don't
listed
go
as
out.
active, but they're not on
They're
the
listed as active, but they don't go out on the truck, is what I mean.
And I will add, the firemen do a fantastic job, and I've been very supportive. I'm just skeptical that we need World War II technology in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Rich, do you have any?
I thought we'd never get to me.
But you feel left out?
The good news is our budget has been approved by the local authorities. So for the 4th year in a row, we have delivered no tax increase, which I think is a great accomplishment. Also, there is the possibility, we are waiting, of a shared service agreement that I can't disclose at this point, but will save us exponentially if we get to enact it. And we should know about that shortly. And outside of that, that's it.
Thank you. Jim?
The only thing I got, we did have a slight fire in one of our garbage trucks.
We had a fire, didn't we?
Yeah, and they were forced to dump it. By the time they dumped the load, it was just smoking. And then, of course, during the heat, it was a nice job cleaning it up.
Everything's okay?
It's okay.
No,
Trucks or whatever.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you, Jim. I'd just like to second what Sarah said about the police. We don't always thank them, but I want to publicly thank our chief, and I see a patrolman there. I want to thank you for your fine work. We have the police report, municipal report. Jay, you would like to expand on the water facility, utility report?
Yes, Mayor, if I may, just in the sense that this is a new report, what we anticipate is this will be a quarterly report to the governing body that provides information. This particular report includes, in reverse order, first just a copy of the annual consumer confidence report on the water quality of our water. Most of you have probably already received the postcard notification that was provided in years past. We actually printed and mailed those reports out to all of our utility customers. With a change in the regulations, we were able to save probably more than half the cost. We dropped it from about $1,700 to less than $700 for the distribution of that report, and we anticipate that in the future that cost will come down even more so as we have the chance to provide regular notification as part of our water bill, so we wouldn't even have to do the separate postcard notification.
Good.
The good news with the water report is that our water is generally very good. It meets all federal and state requirements. Having said that, we were recently notified, as I think everyone is aware, a substantial portion, approximately 80% of our water, is purchased from the New Jersey Water Supply Authority, and we've been notified by them that they recently, in the month of June, exceeded one of the permitted allowances. There'll be more details on that that will be provided to all property owners. It was described to me as a technical violation of one of the parameters, and that information, again, will be forthcoming and will be provided directly by the Water Authority to our customers. Back to the report. The report consists of two components. The smaller is just a report on a monthly basis of the water that is produced within town from our 2 active wells, as well as the water that we purchase from the New Jersey Water Supply Authority, and provides us with just a comparison as time goes forward, monthly comparisons of prior years in terms of our water usage. The large spreadsheet that's been distributed includes probably a lot more information than you're interested in seeing, which is why at the top section we provided a summary, which is a quarterly report on both water as well as sewer billings, and that's important for us not only in terms of where we see where we are, but also to provide an ongoing comparison and an evaluation of our revenues in comparison to our budget anticipation. And as Councilman Vorback indicated, the good news is that we are now with our 3rd quarter reporting with the billing that went out about a week ago, and the payment that is due on August 15th, we are actually ahead of our projection of anticipated revenues for budget purposes, so that's good news. And I say that even though in the third quarter, our estimate actually fell somewhat short, the best that we can come up with is because June was such a wet month, the wettest month on record, as we've been told, that our water usage was somewhat diminished. Outside watering was probably curtailed to some extent. So as a result, we did not see the amount of excess charges in comparison to what had been billed last year. But again, overall, we still anticipate that we will meet our level of projected revenues for the year come December 31, with the final billing that will come out in November. And again, what has been provided provides a quarterly analysis of the breakdown of the various components of our water rates, the residential, commercial, and all the various aspects of the billing, and provides a breakdown of the base billing, the excess charges for both water and sewer, and a total. So again, if there are any questions, hopefully this will start to become more familiar. And as time goes forward, we'll be expanding this report to provide a comparison of not only the billing, but also the monthly usage in comparison to what we're producing in terms of our water. And those are important for a number of reasons. Water conservation, to determine and monitor whether we have any what's called, actually I forgot what it's called, but essentially
Undetected leaks.
undetected leaks, unaccounted for water is the term I was looking for, but essentially undetected leaks, as well as how accurate our metering is. So that's, for the most part, all good news at this stage. And I should just mention that it was mentioned earlier about the, our budget has been approved, our tax rate was certified on Friday. I have a report from our tax collector that indicates she anticipates the billing to actually go out later this week. And obviously the grace period for what is the August 1st due date will be extended to August 26th. And that information will be distributed with the bills when they're mailed out.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Now we have a LoSAP certification memo in the packet. Anyone have any question on that? That's the fire company. Next, Monmouth County Tax Board about the qualified reassessment. Can you just review that a little bit, Jay?
Sure. Mayor, you may recall that at either our last meeting or the prior meeting, we've received notification from the Monmouth County Board of Taxation that they were implementing a pilot program for what's being called a qualified reassessment. I think as the council is aware, in the past, generally municipalities, including Spring Lake Heights, have undergone a complete reassessment or revaluation on a somewhat regular basis, anywhere from 8 to 10 years, depending on market values and the comparison of values to the assessments that are on the books. Through the efforts of the Monmouth County Taxation Board, they've initiated this pilot project to essentially eliminate the need for these reassessment programs, and instead ordering that municipalities on an annual basis perform inspections and reassessments of 20% of the properties. The details of which I don't know the specifics on. With the council's approval, I was going to suggest that we schedule a session with the tax assessor who can provide the council as well as the public with the details of this. But essentially, if you look at the last page of the notice from the county, line 48, Spring Lake Heights, we are scheduled to begin the 20% inspections next year. That will become a budget item because we will be responsible for covering the cost of that. And that in the following year, a qualified reassessment would be implemented based on the results of those inspections and reassessments. So again, I'd rather leave the details of that to the tax assessor either at our August or in light of our pending schedule, probably an early meeting in September.
Okay.
And we will also be providing that information with the tax bills to all property owners, that they have a sense that this is something that is down the road. There are pros and cons to it. It is expected, if we are to believe the county tax board, that this will result in cost savings over the long haul. Frankly, I think time will tell whether that's the case.
Okay. Well, I was always told during the reassessment, 1/3's okay, 1/3's gonna lose, and 1/3, whatever.
Goes up.
It's always a third, a third, a third.
And that's generally I think I've heard the same thing.
Just make sure you're the third house.
Yeah, right. Right, thank you, Jay.
I know which one I'll be.
We have the collective bargaining notification, Sarah, I think you.
Yeah, I meant to mention that in my report. I received a letter from Detective Michael Natunis requesting that we be diligent regarding the negotiations that are going to take place between us and the Uniform Police Association. And apparently there is a requirement now where they have to give us notice 120 days before we conduct our first meeting. So that's exactly what we have done, and Jay and I will be pursuing that.
Okay, thank you. Don't think there's anything else.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to note that there is the correspondence from the Monmouth County Community Development Block Grant Program concerning our application. You will recall that at our last meeting, we had a presentation and a public hearing on that proposed application. I did want to express my thanks, Joe Mays in the audience, Borough Engineer, for preparing that application. We are scheduled for a review session on September 11th, at which time the county CDBG committee will gather to review all of the application, and hopefully not too long thereafter we'll make decisions as far as any funding approval on our application.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Joe. New business. We have an ordinance introduction. This would be the salary and wage ordinance from 2013.
The application was, Jay.
Did I miss something?
Application?
Did I miss something?
Yeah, there's some,
Development application notice under the reports and correspondence.
second to last,
Okay. That was the application for the site lots
4601,
46.
lots 165, 66.
67, I believe it was for, that is the R2, I'm sorry, the B2 R5 zone. And they have an application for, I believe, a business office and 2 homes. Exactly what we don't want. But that's going to go before the planning board on Wednesday, July 24th?
Yes.
24th, okay. Okay, anything on that? All right. New business, we have the ordinance number 2013-5, this is the salary and wage ordinance. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And this is for the introduction for the salary and wage ordinance. We have any questions or comments? Roll call, Jay?
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
no.
Thank you. New business, resolutions, R 2013-93, supporting the preservation of tax exempt financing. If I read this right, Jay, the federal government wants to tax bonds?
Yes, municipal bonds. And we had received a couple of resolutions from other municipalities, and I believe it was the determination of the council that a resolution be prepared for your consideration tonight.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2013-94, requesting that the federal government reimburse our residents for any cost they would incur in raising their homes. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call check.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbacher?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2013-95, authorizing the execution of the settlement with Teresa Casagrande. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do you have any questions on this? Roll call check.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbacher?
No.
Thank you. Resolution R 2013-96, authorizing the acceptance of the drug enforcement demand funding for the Shore Alliance. Need a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do you have any questions? Roll call check.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbacher?
Yes.
A financial resolution. Need a motion to move the bills to the Finance
I'll make
Committee?
that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Do you have any questions? Comment? Roll call, Jay.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbacher?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2013-97, approving the payment claims for July 18th, 2013 bill list.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbacher?
Yes.
Thank you. At this point in the meeting, we have the second voice of the public. You may step forward and speak on any item you'd like. Ms. Jones.
John Cajun, 564 Atlantic Avenue, Spring Hills. Just a question about the development application notice. That had been submitted previously, several months ago, the Amoscato application. Has this been changed, or is this a new
It
application?
is a new application,
It's a
John.
new application?
Yes.
It's not the one...
The previous one was withdrawn,
Okay.
then a new application was filed. That's what this is.
Okay, and this will be heard at the planning board
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And Mayor, if I may, just to provide clarification, we had actually received notice of this application previously because it was scheduled for, I believe, the planning board's June meeting.
Right.
But it was adjourned at that time because there was a notice issue, so they had to
They had a notice
re-notice.
problem.
Right, but that, so...
But it's
that
not the
is-
same as the original application for that
It's not
lot.
the same. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John. Cat, I'm sorry, Sharon. Cat.
Cat Curtis, 564 Atlantic Avenue. Do we still have an ordinance in town that requires people who work with youth to go through fingerprinting and background check?
They do.
Okay, that's still in effect?
Yes.
Okay, Chris, because I know you're new to all of this, the individual who let Stickball in the past have refused to get the background check, and that's why that program went to another town, so CYA for you might want to make sure that that's followed up on this time, and then he does that, so.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to see progress with the B3 zone. I'm sorry your end of the dais got beat out for tonight. And I just wanted to say that after last week's meeting, Mr. Vorbeck made a very good point about your concern that the lack of residential space in town for people with, small families, would contributing to the decreasing enrollment in the school. So I don't want to start a debate on this now, but I just want to throw this out there. Would some consideration be given to maybe having apartments over whatever goes on the ground floor, whether it's businesses and make like a mixed use, or even to have 10 condo units or something? Because you can't limit what goes in there. So if you do a mixed use, you might be able to work to be able to get that. And also, I'm not entirely opposed to retail, but I don't want big retail, like I wouldn't want to see.
You don't want a box.
Like Dressbarn or something
No.
go in there. The same way though that you conditionally had a conditional use for like pharmacies and things like that, would it be possible to maybe, and to keep the footprint down, put like conditional use on retail to have small space? Because I'll tell you what, having looked at shop space, You cannot find anything that's like less than 1,000 square feet.
That's
and
a small
therefore,
space.
Yeah, but you can't find small affordable shops, and that's what people who are starting out in business want. You cannot find it, I'm telling you. I have been in every town, up and down between here and Allentown, and it's very, very hard. And here's the problem with retail, because you were talking about there's a lot of empty office space. With retail, because so much of your business now is online, but you might like to have a small presence in a town, it actually might be more conducive to renting everything out and to make a quaint, attractive small building if you could limit the retail to small stores, small affordable stores.
I could jump in real quick. In Spring Lake on Third Avenue, at the north end of town, across
Yes.
from the, it used to be the post office with some.
Yeah,
nice
where
thing.
Breakfast
There's-
Pharmacy used to be.
Yeah, there's a cute little area in there with a
Yes,
little.
where
yeah,
Marion
that's true.
Fallon is. That's, yeah, that's cute, and that's
Yeah, it's
very
nice.
nice, and they're small, and they're unfortunately still not.
It's charming, it's very charming.
Yeah, but it's nice, it's small. You know, I have to tell you, you look at a store in Spring Lake, and for 1,200 square feet, they want $3,000. I mean,
And
you'd have to sell crack with whatever your other product was just to be able to make your.
if Cat opens a store.
Totally noted, right?
So I'm just saying,
We could all be arrested at the front door.
it might be a way, keep the footprint small, expand the use a little bit beyond office business, which, yeah, any office business area is hurting too. And you don't want to have just all real estate offices in there, and they're the only places that can afford space. So it might be an alternative worth looking at to say, if we're going to have retail, have small retail, you know, keep it cute, artist studio space type stuff, and maybe consider having some kind of residential, do a mixed use and have residential upstairs and have some apartments, and then maybe you get the best of both worlds. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Yes, Sharon.
Sharon Bateau, Beverly Avenue. Part of what I was going to say was what Kat said. The way the ordinance is now, I think is very abstract. You have on there, it's all black and white, and you've got percentages of land, and you've got square footages, and a lot of people can't visualize and don't understand what that means. You know, they have to see it. If you want to strive to do the best for the town, I think before this next meeting, we need to see some kind of projection. We need to see pictures, like a proposal. Well, okay, this is the space. How about we've got this size building here and these many buildings, and this is retail, and this is green space, because I do think that's something very important to think about there. And this is perhaps how it could be laid out, something for people to see, and also so they can understand how large the space really is, because it's not minuscule. It's a lot bigger than people realize. It goes way back there. And I just think that that's really important for me as a visual person with a creative background. That's what I like to see, some cool drawings of buildings and stuff. And just let me finish, or forget, because I'm getting tired here. But, you know, perhaps, well, you know, that's why I'm not running for council. Takes a lot of stamina, I understand that. And I do understand more than you think. But I just would hate to see just pavement, asphalt everywhere, ugly buildings, and there's always color. You need to have human spaces too. You know, maybe so that the rain garden, that sounds great. Why don't we go and why don't we run with that? Why don't we have places for people to sit down in these retail spaces? I mean, can we control the square footage of each shop? Can we control how many actual buildings go in this space and require more vegetation and greenery and places for people to sit and eat? And please, I'm going to forget everything I want to say. The other thing I want to say, and I've mentioned this before to Mr. Dimmer, is that I think it's really important, before we rush into this, that you speak to other towns and other people, like Spring Lake, and see what they're doing. See what they've done to be successful. That organization that runs the town and the president of the bid there has done really great things. They've taken bus trips to other towns to see how they do things, keep things on a human scale, keep them clean, and look at architecture. And that's what I mean by design standards, not just measurements. I mean, what kind of buildings, how high can we keep them?
Well, there's a max height.
Yeah, but
32
people will
feet.
go to that max. I mean, why don't we make it, just 1 or 2 stories even?
That's, a two-story building would be 32 feet high.
Okay, here we go again
That's 2
with the numbers
stories
and
with a
stuff.
roof.
I think it's really helpful for a lot of people to see it visually what you're talking about.
But Sharon, what you're talking about, that process doesn't occur at the council. That process occurs at the planning.
And it
That's
was
why I
not
urge you to
words
come
like
to
that
the
I
planning
said
board.
that I do, I am.
Yeah, and that's why I said, because Wednesday night, this will be proposed, and you'll see what's going to be proposed. But that process doesn't happen at the council. The council doesn't dictate architecture. The
I know,
council,
it's like
we
what-
don't have that ability.
What comes first?
And in your
the chicken
zoning,
or
you
the
don't
egg?
have that. But hear me out, let me finish 1 second. You don't have that ability to dictate the architecture of the building. You have zoning that gives you setbacks, you can set percentages into terms of what usage is, but you can't come down to, this minuscule point here at the council level. When we're talking the micro end of this as opposed to the macro end, we're the macro end. The micro end is what occurs at the planning board. For example, if you were to come into the planning board and say, well, I'd like to see that shop, they're going to put up an 1,800 square foot building. So that means if it's 1,800 square feet, there's 900 square feet on the first floor, there's 900 square feet on the second floor. It's typically the way it is. Well, if you were having retail spaces, if you had one retail space, that would only be 900 square feet on the first floor. If you were in there with, say, a pharmacy, you probably need all 900 square feet. The Spring Lake Pharmacy itself is 1,200, 1,300 square feet. Because you have your stock item, you got that room for stock, you have that room for, your showroom, then you need room for stock. But those, in terms of that, really, I don't think it's that abstract. I mean, you're a commercial real estate agent, you know what square footage
But I come from a creative
is.
background, and not everybody is as left brain as you are. And what you're talking about is very left brain. And I know that when you say something is planned and there's a plan, you can't plan it. But just what I'm saying is I think it would be much better for everybody to take out the fear factor of all of this, because it's very scary when you don't know what it is that we're talking about here. You need to see a picture, some sort of picture, a proposal of what this may look like. Town
That's at the
planners do it
planning
all
board.
the time.
But that's at the planning board. When you say town planners, that's the
Well,
planning
you're on
board.
the planning board, so maybe
Right.
we could suggest it. Maybe.
Trust me.
Maybe
Boy, have we.
if you had a picture of something to see.
You know what,
and-
let me tell you how I envision it, and I think you would agree with me. And maybe that's a stretch, I don't know. But I'm gonna go for
Maybe.
it. I'm gonna go for it. I envision something that looks like Christine Keating building, National Homes building, that's right there.
That's a start.
That's a start. If you go also to, head out towards Route 35, off, not Alair Road, Warren Avenue, where the Shaves barbershop is,
Right behind the right.
It's a-
behind the right, well, but again, listen, your Picasso could be my Frankenstein, my Frankenstein
I
could be
know,
your
but they
Picasso.
kind of look the same.
No, but in the sense that one had sort of a covered porch look to it, the other had a porch, there are different things you can do, but I envision a colonial style type building is how I would envision it. And if you look at the setbacks that are in the ordinance and go to that page for the setbacks, pretty much based on what would be required for parking and et cetera, that's what you're gonna get. You're not gonna have, 10,000 square foot buildings. There's really not enough room for that.
Again, you need to show people examples though, because.
But that doesn't happen at the council. You're confusing the planning board process
So you're
with the council
suggesting that I
process.
suggest this on Wednesday night?
Absolutely.
Okay, that'll be
That's the
interesting,
appropriate
because-
venue, is what I'm trying
because-
to get across.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
Because they're only going to talk about the other
A lot of left brain stuff going on in there too. I mean, I just would love to see.
Left
a
side of my brain is
rendering.
exhausted.
A rendering, here's an idea of what it looks like.
But that's where you'll see the renderings. For example, when you came to the planning board meeting, we were talking about that bank. You saw the renderings. That's where that occurs. That's the process by which that
That horse is
occurs.
already out of the barn, so to speak. I mean, I still, just to go
But
back.
again, that's the example you want to see.
All right, okay, I guess I'm just not explaining myself very well this evening.
You're
but I-
explaining,
No, you're
you're
explaining
explaining
yourself,
yourself
but I
fine, but we don't have, I guess you could say the authority or the capability to do it here.
Right. That's why you have a
What
planning
you do have
board.
the capability of, though, is thinking about what Mr. Rohrbach and what Mr. Tinkin said, I think some kind of green space, some human area there. I mean, I'm still for some residential there if it's possible to do, because this is the other thing. Show me your comps of how commercial properties are going to make my property values better. No, I don't know. I don't know about that. I understand the problems, like I said, I understand more than you think. But I just think that we can't have this big square full of asphalt and stores and retail. And think about Peddler's Village, it's still 3/4 empty.
But you're not gonna have a big thing of asphalt.
No.
You're gonna have a 20-foot
But
setback
see, you
and
know
a
that-
30-foot buffer in the back.
You need to
Mayor,
sketch it out for people if at all possible. You really do. Or it's just going to be another big fight, I'm telling you. Because
Sharon,
people are afraid
Sharon.
of what they don't understand.
Sharon,
Yes,
just have, well, listen what Jay has to say.
Oh, sure.
Mayor, may I suggest that without incurring too much cost, we could take one of the lots there and do a quick site plan, at least in a plan view,
Yeah.
perhaps not architectural details, but that shows what would be the setbacks, what the coverage, maximum lot coverage would be, and what's the maximum size building that could be built in. And I think that may very well be helpful for our.
Can you have that for the next meeting, Jay?
Let's do it for the August meeting.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the suggestion.
It's not gonna be-
Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Quick point of clarification with regard to Mr. True's observation about the siren being stuck on, and then we called Belmar to find out, and they weren't aware of it. The way the system works is it's remotely operated, it's not remotely monitored. So although they press the button, it sends the signal is received, and then the siren goes off. Calling them and trying to get clarification as to why it's still sounding, it's not that it's monitored by them so that they can in effect see that it's still going and they can't hear it, although it is loud, they cannot hear it from Belmar. So I didn't want the observation to be that they weren't professional in their understanding of how the system works. And I'm not suggesting that was your observation, but when you call and they say basically they don't know why it's happening, it's certainly not because they don't know how to operate the system, it's because the system, they can't see how the system is operating at our end here. It's a matter of pressing a button and it's a
My
set forget.
complaint was when the man said, I only push the button.
Right. And in fact, that's his extent of their control.
Literally, that's what he meant.
Literally, that's what we meant.
Thank you.
Yikes.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Seeing no hands, I need a motion to close the second voice to the public.
I'll make
Make
that
that
motion.
motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I believe that's it for the meeting, except for need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I don't know.